Kingdom of Israel. Year 970 BCE. The winds of prophecy blow over a dry and fractured land. The great King David is dead. His sons circle the throne like lions over a carcass. And yet, it is not the strongest who will inherit the crown, not the oldest, not the most feared. A boy steps forward, barely a man, soft-spoken, wide-eyed. He is not a soldier, not a general, and yet his destiny will echo through more than 3 millennia. His name is Solomon. To some, he was a king of peace, to others, a master of knowledge. But in the shadows of history, in texts banned, burned, or hidden, he is remembered as something more: a magician, a summoner, a man who wore a ring said to control demons and speak the language of the stars. This is not the story told in Sunday school. This is a tale of forbidden knowledge, ancient power, and one man's descent into mysteries no king was meant to touch. Solomon and the Ring of Power. The line between wisdom and sorcery is thinner than we think. Solomon was not born to rule. In the palace of David, succession was a storm of blood and ambition. Brothers turned against brothers. Spies filled the halls. The mighty Absalom had already fallen, pierced by a javelin, hanging from a tree by his hair. Adonijah, the next contender, was ready to crown himself by force. And yet, it was the prophet Nathan who whispered to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, "The Lord has chosen him." A coronation followed, quiet, unassuming, almost anticlimactic. And then, a dream. In the quiet of Gibeon, Solomon fell asleep. And in that sleep, at least according to the Book of Kings, he heard the voice of the divine. "Ask what I shall give thee." Most kings would ask for power, long life, victory over enemies, gold. But Solomon asked for something else, something dangerous. "Give your servant an understanding heart to discern between good and evil." That one request would change the course of history. His fame spread like fire through dry reeds, across Egypt, Phoenicia, Assyria, even to Sheba, far in the south. They came to hear the boy king speak, to test him with riddles, to marvel at the riddles he solved. His judgments became legend. But this wisdom was not just practical. It was layered, multi-dimensional. Solomon spoke of the nature of time, of the cycles of the moon, of the secret language of trees and wind and breath. The Book of Proverbs, the Song of Songs, Ecclesiastes, these were not just writings. They were formulas, encoded fragments of higher understanding, disguised as poetry. But something else stirred beneath the surface, something the official scriptures only hint at: a thirst, a hunger for knowledge not of this world. Where did Solomon's wisdom truly come from? Was it only divine, or was it also drawn from elsewhere? Some say he studied the writings of Enoch, texts now lost or hidden. Others claim he learned from Egyptian priests, Babylonian sages, even Chaldean stargazers. And then there was the ring. They call it the Seal of Solomon. But it was more than a seal, more than a ring. It was a key. Some say it was forged by angels. Others claim it fell from the sky, a gift or a curse. It bore markings unlike anything from Israel or Egypt, ancient names, geometries of power, languages that no tongue should speak aloud. And when Solomon placed it on his finger, the world around him changed. There exists an ancient text, forbidden, censored by church and temple alike. It's called the Testament of Solomon, and in it, the wisest king becomes something else. According to this text, Solomon used the ring to summon, not men, not angels, but spirits, demons, or what we call demons today. The first was Orneus, a shape-shifting entity tormenting a young boy. Solomon called him, bound him, questioned him. "Who are you?" I am the demon who strangles the hearts of boys and steals their breath while they sleep. Then I bind you by the name inscribed upon this ring." And Ornius obeyed. Then came the others. One by one, 72 spirits, each with their own domain: disease, chaos, lust, deception, fire, wind, and death, and all were placed under Solomon's command. Solomon did not banish them. He used them. He commanded them to build his temple. According to legend, the stones of the temple were lifted without human hands, levitated, shaped by heat and will. The walls whispered with voices only Solomon could hear. It was the greatest structure Israel had ever seen. But beneath its beauty lay something else. Some scholars, especially in esoteric circles, believe the temple was not just a place of worship. It was a vessel, a machine, built with divine ratios, built with power, and at its core was the ring. The ring served as a regulator, a seal, and perhaps even a portal key. In Kabbalistic thought, it linked Solomon to the 10 Sephirot, the map of divine consciousness. In Islamic tradition, it granted him command over jinn and even control of wind and beasts. In the West, it would become the blueprint for ritual magic, the seal etched into grimoires centuries later. The ring was more than power. It was knowledge, but some knowledge carries a cost. The more Solomon used the ring, the more distant he became from his people, from his God, from himself. In secret, he began to study forbidden texts. His wives brought with them foreign gods, and the king who once walked with angels began to walk among demons. The first temple, known as Beit HaMikdash in Hebrew, the house of the holy, the house of the name. To most, it was the greatest architectural achievement in ancient Israel. But to those who see with different eyes, it was something else: a transmitter, a container, a sacred machine. The stones of Solomon's temple were unlike anything in Israel's past. Enormous, smooth, cut with impossible precision. The biblical record insists no tool of iron was heard during construction. Some say they used a magical object called the shamir, a living stone or worm capable of slicing through rock with light alone. Others say they didn't use tools at all. According to the Testament of Solomon, it was the spirits, those 72 bound by the ring, who lifted and placed every stone. Not out of devotion, but compulsion. But this was not merely construction. This was design. Each wall, each pillar, each step was part of a larger code. The temple's dimensions echo those of the Tree of Life in Kabbalah. Its orientation aligns with solstices and equinoxes. Its central chamber, the Holy of Holies, sits on what tradition calls the foundation stone of the world. According to mystics, whoever controls that stone controls the gate between worlds. The temple may have been built for ritual sacrifice, but its true purpose? To house the Ark of the Covenant, an object said to emit fire, light, and voice, an object perhaps not made on earth. Under the temple, some say Solomon had secret chambers built, vaults that held more than gold, scrolls, diagrams, names of power written in flame. A chamber only he could enter, wearing the ring, invoking the names. According to esoteric tradition, this hidden level may have preserved texts from before the flood, maps of the stars, schematics of creation, forbidden names of God, known only to the angels and the initiated. There are even tales of portals deep beneath the foundation stone, spirals of light, pathways to realms where spirit and matter are one. It's here that Solomon crossed a threshold few dare to approach. He was no longer just a king or a priest. He had become a navigator, moving between planes of reality, guided by names, numbers, and geometry. But when you reach that far beyond the veil, sometimes something reaches back. The same spirits who helped build the temple had begun to whisper again, and Solomon, now isolated in knowledge few could grasp, started to lose touch with the very world he ruled. Some say the ring began to respond to other voices, that the balance between dominion and delusion began to blur. Power had built the temple, but it had also opened a door that cannot be closed. Power rarely whispers. It seduces, it flatters, and then it consumes. At the height of his reign, Solomon ruled an empire envied by kings. His wealth surpassed measure. His name echoed from Babylon to the Nile. His throne was said to be made of ivory and gold, guarded by 12 mechanical lions. And yet, the man who once asked only for wisdom was beginning to change. According to the Book of Kings, Solomon married hundreds of women, princesses of Moab, Ammon, Edom, Phoenicia, and beyond. They brought with them customs, languages, and gods: Chemosh, Molech, Astarte, Baal, names forbidden by the Torah, names older than Israel itself. At first, he merely tolerated their rituals. Then, he allowed shrines to be built. Then, he joined them, and those who still followed Wish began to whisper, "The king has turned." But his true obsession was no longer wealth, nor women, nor even empire. It was knowledge, knowledge buried deep beneath the surface of Scripture. Fragments of language that predated Hebrew, symbols found in Phoenician ruins, star maps etched into the walls of Babylonian ziggurats. According to some apocryphal sources, Solomon began to study texts from Egypt's priesthood, scrolls rescued from the libraries of Heliopolis, and others say he practiced rites inherited from the Nephilim, the fallen watchers of Enoch's time. The ring had not just opened a door to demons, it had opened his mind to everything, even what should remain hidden. The seal that once protected him began to respond to other voices. Spirits that had once obeyed began to resist, and the ring, once luminous, now shimmered with shadow. There are stories, not canonical, but persistent, of Solomon engaging in battles, not of sword and shield, but of will. That in the silence of his tower, he would cry out names no man should utter. That mirrors cracked when he spoke. That his shadow no longer moved in harmony with his body. Wisdom had become pride. Pride became obsession. Obsession became isolation. Toward the end of his life, the temple grew silent. The ark was no longer seen. The voice that once spoke in dreams was gone. Some say he tried to destroy the ring. Others say it was taken from him by divine hand or darker force. There are even those who believe it was hidden in a vault beneath the temple, sealed with spells so ancient that only the Messiah himself could break them. His kingdom began to fracture. Civil unrest, rebellions, foreign influence. And when Solomon died, he left behind a kingdom of gold, built on sand. He began as the wisest of kings. He ended as a warning. That knowledge, without humility, can become a curse. Solomon died. But his story did not. His bones may lie beneath the soil of Jerusalem, but his name, his symbol, it traveled. With time, his legend left the Torah, passed through the Quran, echoed in Christian mysticism, and finally entered the shadows. The seal of Solomon, once the mark of divine kingship, became something else. In Islam, Solomon, Suleiman, is revered as a prophet who spoke the language of birds and jinn, who ruled wind and metal. In Sufi texts, his ring is said to contain the Ism al-Azam, the greatest name of God. In Jewish Kabbalah, Solomon's temple becomes not just architecture, but a blueprint of the soul, a mirror of the tree of life, a cosmic structure repeated in every spiritual seeker. And in Christianity, especially among early Gnostics, he is remembered not only for his wisdom, but for having crossed into realms that others feared. But the strangest echoes come not from temples, but from grimoires, forbidden books, hidden shelves in old libraries. The Key of Solomon, the Lesser Key of Solomon, Clavicula, Salomonis, texts that claim to contain rituals, sigils, summoning circles, and lists of the 72 spirits once bound by his ring. Alchemists invoked his name while seeking the philosopher's stone. Magicians of the Renaissance built entire systems on the methods attributed to him. Secret societies, like the Freemasons, saw in his temple the symbol of a deeper truth, that God is a builder and man a reflection of divine architecture. The legend of Solomon is not only a story of external power, but of internal transformation. His temple becomes the mind, the ring becomes the will, the demons, the fragmented pieces of the self, forces to be understood, integrated, not feared. This is why the story endures, because it is not just history, it is a pattern, a mirror of the journey each soul takes, from innocence to knowledge, to temptation, to the search for balance. Was the ring real? Perhaps. Was the wisdom real? Absolutely. Solomon, king of Israel, prince of peace, master of spirits, still walks beside us, in mystery, in silence, in legacy.